What's up, everybody? This is the Coast to Coast podcast here on InsideCarolina.com. We are brought to you by Johnny T-Shirt, the number one place for you to get all of your UNC swag, gear, apparel, trinkets, doodads, who's it, what's it's, whatever you want to call it. If it's got a UNC logo on it or if it represents the University of North Carolina, Johnny T-Shirt will have it for you. Spring sports are getting up and started. And if you want to head out to the Bosch to see some baseball this year, don't go rocking some old gear. Hit up johnnytshirt.com, or better yet, stop by, see them right there on Franklin Street. They'll take care of you. And we'll be right back with this week's edition of the Coast to Coast podcast. All right, welcome in. Thanks for being here. We know this is the biggest night of the year, and we know that you are all here after talking to your bookies, after planning your parties. This is what you were here for. You've all gathered around the tube to hear this year's commercials and see this episode of the Coast to Coast podcast, and we appreciate you being here. As always, I'm your host, Joey Powell. If you have not subscribed, please rate, review us. We always love all that feedback. Helps us make for a better show for you. The two guys that you're here to see and hear from have joined me once again, Sean Moran, Sherelle McMillan. Sean, I'm guessing you're Rams. Sherelle, I'm going to designate you as a Bengals fan because if I remember correctly, when you played blue in Remember the Titans, you had some tiger stripe draws, right? Or were they leopard print? I can't remember.
No comment.
Nothing? I got nothing? All right. Well,
I got you caught me off guard. You caught me way off guard.
Shut him down first early tonight, guys. That's some lockdown defense for you. Well, boys, I appreciate you being here. Before we get rolling, I want to give a shout out to my man Massey over at the Graduate Hotel Bar. My wife and I stopped in there to enjoy an evening away, and Massey just really took care of us. We watched the Florida State game there, but know he's a listener, know he's a big Inside Carolina follower, so I want to give him a shout out and appreciate him tuning into what we do. So, boys, coming off of yesterday's game where the Tar Heels just put up some absolutely gaudy numbers against the Florida State Seminoles, and I want to throw out there, yes, we're aware that Florida State was coming in licking their wounds, losing 5 straight. I mean, just had an absolute hodgepodge of players trying to fill out a lineup. And I know that wasn't ideal. But I think if you can separate the opponent, there's a lot to like about what North Carolina did on offense and defense yesterday. Sean, give you some stats, and then I want to come to you first for just your general reaction. But 74% field goal shooting in the first half. That's hard to do against air. They shot over, I think they shot over 70 from 3 in the first half, 22 assists on 37 field goals made. They shot 42% three-pointers for the game. Meanwhile, holding Florida State under 40%. That's even after Florida State kind of started getting what they want in the second half. Just a lot to like about this Tar Heel team. And Sean, I want to ask you, what did they do that looked so different yesterday against Florida State from what we've seen from this team in every other game except maybe parts of the NC State game?
Well, life is always better when the ball's going through the basket. And
Thank you, Roy.
I think
yes.
I think it gave everybody confidence early on with Caleb and Brady, and it just kind of carried throughout. I think one of the key things that we've been discussing almost on every podcast is ball movement, and that was something I think it was probably the best that they've had all season. And really that first half there weren't a whole lot of forced shots. Everybody was either driving with a purpose or driving looking to kick or move the ball quickly, and make decisions quickly. And I think that just led to open shots, but at the same time you could see getting out in transition more so than in games past, and also players maybe making some passes they could not have met or could not have made maybe earlier in the season. So it was good to see kind of everything clicking on both offense and defense in that first half.
Hey, I want to stick here with you for a second because I felt like I saw more cutting from the corners on the baseline yesterday. I don't know if that was something that was new, a new wrinkle in the offense, or just that the Tar Heels were exploiting it and using it more. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it stands out with when Styles got into the game and some of the stuff that he was able to do, but and even going back to the Clemson game of Manic cutting for the game-winning basket. So I think that is something that can hopefully continue with a floor that is definitely more spread out than in the past. And having, the defense is focused on shooters as well as Armando down low. So, I mean, there are those opportunities. I think that's what we've talked about with Leaky of, even if he's not a focal point of the offense, and it has been great to see him knock down open jump shots and, finish with authority, but he's also the type of guy, that 3 position with this year's team, they should be getting 3 to 4 cuts or, 3 to 4 baskets off of cuts, or just kind of attacking, on the offensive glass a game at the very least. So, hopefully that's just kind of another area along with transition that can provide, 10 plus points a game.
Sean tagged it just a little bit, but I want to kind of really spend some time with you here. We talked about on the radio show with Tommy Ashley and Inside Carolina Live about Hubert's comments about Dontrez, Styles, and DeMarco Dunn getting more playing time. And it wasn't just lip service, because Dontrez played 16 minutes against Florida State, finished with 8 points and 4 rebounds, and just his athleticism really jumped off the screen at us. What do you think was different about what Dontrez has been doing in practice? Or is this one of those things where Hubert just recognized, hey, I got to get this kid some playing time. He's earned it.
There's a couple years ago, I think it was 2017, Roy Williams had the 3 freshman bigs. It was Brandon Huffman, it was Garrison Brooks, and it was Sterling Manley. And it was around this time that season, probably late February, he came out very clearly to the media and said, you know what, I've got to play these guys some more because they're the future of Carolina basketball. Luke is going to be gone. We're losing some parts, and I've got to get these guys some time. If not, it's going to hurt us even more next season. I think maybe Hubert, between Styles playing better in practice, and then between some of that recognition and now getting the official word that Dawson Garcia is not coming back this season, I think when you add all that together, it was an opportunity for Hubert to get more minutes for Styles, and that's probably what it was. I would imagine, again, I don't know because I'm not in practice, but I would imagine his practice habits have gotten better. Because again, true freshman, people forget that.
Yeah.
It's very different to come in and learn the nuances of the Carolina system, the Hubert Davis system, how to practice, how to handle going to class, how to handle all the responsibilities that he has as a North Carolina basketball player, study hall, et cetera, et cetera. So maybe he's just now really getting into a groove where he can, do well in practice, and now that's going to translate into more minutes on the court.
I think a lot of fans can instantly notice different energy when he's on the floor. What else does he bring to this team that is a net positive for Hubert Davis's roster?
I think the energy is a big thing. So we talked to someone very close to the UNC program a couple of years ago, right after Styles committed, because if you remember, he committed at the onset of the coronavirus pandemic. And basically they said, UNC likes him a lot because he's really tough, and they kind of questioned North Carolina's toughness a little bit that previous year. So this would have been the 14 and 19 season, the Cole Anthony season. That would have been that year. And so they questioned their toughness a little bit. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that he brings some toughness. He brings a lot of intensity because he's a no nonsense type of kid. And then he brings a lot of athleticism that frankly they haven't had on the wing and kind of at the 3-4 in some time. So I think that's the reason that it's so just different, because you haven't seen anyone quite like him at UNC in probably 3-4 years.
He's absolutely a breath of fresh air. I like all those adjectives you use: energy, toughness, intensity, athleticism. And as we've used on this show many times before, kid looks like he's got a little bit of dog in him, and I know the three of us are a fan of that. So
I was about to bark, but I figured I wouldn't do that.
Hey, did Blue bark and Remember the Titans? I can't remember. Sean, one of the things we were talking about a second ago, you alluded to specifically, was just how much better the ball movement was against Florida State. And if you look at UNC's wins, a lot of them have been better. I think the ball movement in the second half against Clemson was better, probably definitely not to the level that it was against Florida State. How much of this is just guard play and RJ Davis and Caleb Love just feeling like they're not going to be bested? How much of it is those guys seeing the floor better? Just what do you think is leading to better ball movement all around, instead of now, instead of where it was just Brady Manick earlier in the year, now you've got guards who are facilitating really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, you have RJ with over the 2 games, 11 assists, 1 turnover, and you have Caleb still turning the ball over a little bit, but I feel like even in Florida State that there was 2 turnovers. Where in my mind, I was like, well, I'm fine with that turnover because he was at least looking to make, kind of make the right pass. And maybe it was a little late or a little off, but staying on Caleb because I think he's kind of been a lightning rod for the UNC fan base, and
Sure.
Even Clemson, he really struggled for the 38 minutes, but hit a big shot and had the game-winning assist. But he is the one guy that can, constantly, well, not constantly because he has struggled against the top teams, but he can get into, he can beat his defender off the dribble and get into the paint. And I think once again, last week we hit on a lot. He was, shooting 28% from 2. That number didn't go up with his performance this week, but if he's able to get into that lane and I think, kind of have pass first on his mind, and it did seem like that was the case, driving baseline a few times and looking out to the corner or looking out to the wing. Same when he was driving in the paint and Manic's cutting now, and it seems like they've developed a good back and forth, good relationship in terms of the drives and cuts. And if he can continue that just pass first mindset, I mean, I think that could determine, if they can compete with, one of these teams that has been blowing them out as of late. Unfortunately, we won't get to really see that. I mean, maybe, twice more this year, but overall, I think, the passing has first it was Manic, but now really the whole team is looking to do it. And, just going back to that last Duke game, the first 2 shots were kind of a forced leaky pull up and then an RJ one-on-one. So, the more the ball can move and the more that people are looking for each other. And, I think that will once again keep the offense going. Even when they do go through stretches like they did against Clemson early on, they can put points up in a hurry with some of that firepower.
Yeah, I agree with all that. Sherelle, we've talked about before on this show how much better Caleb is when he seems engaged early, and usually that's hitting a jump shot early on. But what are you seeing that is the major difference or differences between good Caleb Love and bad Caleb Love?
It's a tough question.
That's what I'm here for, man. I can't give you softballs on every one.
Yeah, I would say good Caleb Love is realizing and is resolute in his mindset that he's going to be a point guard, that he's going to make sure that not only does he find offense for himself, but he finds offense, as Sean said, for others. The drives and the dishes to Manic and to Baycott are really an example, I think, of his maturation over the course of the year, because I don't know if he would have made that pass earlier this season, and definitely probably not last season. So I think just a little bit more of an understanding of when to hunt and when not. That's usually when you get good Caleb. I think sometimes bad Caleb, again, is partly psychological. And I don't want to, again, not playing a doctor or anything, but I think he gets down on himself after he, misses a couple of shots or commits a couple of turnovers or doesn't, get back on a defensive assignment. And I think it can snowball very easily for him. Kind of the same way making a shot can get him energized. I think missing one or turning the ball over can snowball in a different direction. So for me, that's kind of the main difference. But what I think you have to give him a ton of credit for is the fact that he continues to fight through it. Even if some of the shots are no, yes, he fights through it. The plays that he made at Clemson, were huge. The overtime against Louisville were huge. So, I think that's really just it. It's that he's fighting through it and he's recognizing it more than maybe he did last year. I think at times last year was more like, what's wrong with y'all? I'm good. And I think this year it's more, looking internally and saying, what can I do to make the team better? And how can I work within, the construct of the system to better to have a better outcome for myself and for the team. So I think that mindset is a huge difference.
You answered the bell really well on that one, man. So well done. Okay. Looking forward, and I'm not making any assumptions about how the Pitt game is going to play out on Wednesday night, but North Carolina should win that basketball game, right? I think the next big major hurdle, I see the eye roll and the major shrugs are Sherelle, but I'm not assuming anything, but I want to look and spend a little more time on the Virginia Tech matchup, because I think for what North Carolina hopes to do with this season, you need to beat Pitt. but that Virginia Tech game is one of their two current quad one opportunities before the season is over. What do the Tar Heels have to do to be able to match up in Blacksburg, in Castle Coliseum against this Virginia Tech team that has shown some grittiness? They fought the Tar Heels tooth and nail for most of the game in Chapel Hill. Cheryl, I want to come to you first. Give me one thing that has to happen for the Tar Heels to be able to beat a very, very tough and gnarly Virginia Tech team.
Don't get down, 21-5 on the road. Don't, get up 5-0 and then give up a 21-4 run. Just manage the game, stay within striking distance, all those cliches. I think that's a key, because as you've seen for this team, when it goes bad, it goes really, really, they break bad really hard when the opportunity presents itself, which it has a few times this season. So I think that's one. And then two, your defense has to travel because this is I don't want to say explosive, but this is a potentially explosive Virginia Tech team offensively. And they did not have a great game offensively at UNC, but they were in it, really down to the final few minutes. So I think North Carolina is going to have to play one of their better defensive games of the season to go in there and get a win. So those are two things I'm looking for. And as always, the made field goals to assist ratio, defense, made field goals to assist ratio, and not having the game be over within the first 6 or 7 minutes.
I think that all tracks. Sean, I'm going to come to you. Same question. And I realize Sherrill took a couple of really obvious ones there, but I'm going to ask you to dig into your bag here. What's something that the Tar Heels have to bring to be able to walk out of the castle with a much needed win?
I mean, I think, staying defensively, kind of two things. One is defending the 3-point line. We have seen issues with that at times. I think it has gotten better with the rotations and not, just leaving wide open shooters after a drive and two passes. But right now, the first game, Virginia, as Stroll said, they didn't play great. And Virginia Tech only had 7 3-pointers in that game. Right now on KenPom, they're second in the country in terms of 3-point percentage. So you're going to give up 3-point attempts, but making sure that, at least a hand is in the face, they're contested. And then the second one, we saw what Virginia Tech, what their focus was from the very beginning last game, was giving it to Justin Lutz at the 4 and letting him attack Brady by backing him down. And he just, Brady played tough defense, but he also just, probably missed some shots that he normally would make. And I think we saw that, with Clemson, of looking to attack Brady. So I think that matchup will be a big one in terms of, making sure that it's not a, kind of a complete offensive mismatch, but there is a lot of contesting going on there. And, I don't expect this against Virginia Tech, but you have seen with Louisville and Clemson, UNC has gotten up 9 or 10 points early in the second half, and which is a great sign, because I don't think they would have been able to do that earlier in the year on the road. But at the same time, they've then given up those leads extremely quickly. And I think once they, if they are able to build a lead, to try and sustain it and keep that focus going throughout the rest of the game.
Good insight. I appreciate that. And I think that you talked about some team concepts there, but also some individual player concepts that will be valuable. All right, guys, before we take a quick break, I do want to share this stat. I shared it with you guys. If you have any major comments other than, no crap, then feel free. I'll give you space to share those. But pluck this from Eric Haslam. He is at Haslam Metrics or Hasla Metrics on Twitter. But this kind of bears out, it's the first time I'd seen it in print, this bears out what we talked about last week with North Carolina beating everybody they should beat and then getting mollywopped by everyone that is significantly better than they are. But Haslam pointed out North Carolina is now rated by their site to be the 3rd most erratic team in college hoops. Almost 9 of their performances this season have received game efficiency marks of either -30 or less or +30 or greater. 9 games, almost 9 games, guys. Again, like that. And when they say game efficiency, they mean the team has either been +30 or better or -30 or less. And that is just the epitome in writing of the Jekyll and Hyde-ness of this particular roster. Any strong feelings that stat conjures up for you?
I wouldn't say
Other
strong.
other than just a meh face from you, that was amazing. I wish everybody could see that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say strong or anything, but it's good to see confirmed what we think and what we see with our eyes. It's good to see that confirmed with numbers. Yeah, variance, man. That for me, that's the word of this season is variance. That's a pretty incredible stat. I don't have anything else. It's incredible.
When they're good, they're good, but when they're bad, they are deplorable. Sean, anything that conjures up for you, or is it pretty much just cementing what we already suspected?
Yeah, I mean, I think, even just looking at the points per possession on a game by game basis, it's like, the both offense and defense are, for the most part, outside of, the home BC game, seem to be correlated of one's running hot, the other is, well, if the offense is running hot, the defense is at least running medium. But when the offense is running bad, like it was against Miami or Wake, the defense is there with them. So you're getting, similar to Florida State, where, especially those first half numbers of just, I think godly, 1.55 points per possession or something like that, and 0.75 for Florida State. So it's really just trying to, once again, make sure that the offense can be consistent, not get into those holes that Terrell mentioned, and that the defense, we know we're not going to get a top 20 effort, but if they can, at least force tough shots and stay locked in, I think will be the key to hopefully minimizing some of that negative variance.
Sherelle, you wanted to break format and ask Sean a question a little bit?
Yeah, I was curious, Sean, the Virginia Tech game, is this a switch all screens game?
I don't think so, because I think Mutz and Aluma can probably take advantage, take more advantage of the guards down low. But I think it could easily turn into that if they're able to get open looks. But I think, UNC, I feel they have been doing a better job communicating as of late. And I think, they should be able to hopefully fight through and be focused early on. But as we've seen before, it could easily become that. And at the same time, if it does, perhaps that gets Virginia Tech out of any offensive rhythm where they try to attack the mismatches versus trying to run a fluid offense. So I think it'll be an interesting schematic scheme of what's going on defensively.
Well played, fellas, both of you, both the question and the answer. All right, take a quick break. We're going to let the national guys come drop some ads in here. We're going to come right back, talk a little bit of recruiting, because there was movement this past weekend, not just with the Tar Heels absolutely Peter rolling the Florida State Seminoles, but there was movement on the recruiting front. We'll talk about that in just 1 second when we get back here on the Coast to Coast podcast. All right, thanks for sticking around. We appreciate you listening. Once again, want to remind you, rate and review us. It helps us with advertisers, helps us in various podcast medium algorithms. So do that. We'd appreciate it. If you like what you're hearing, give us that 5-star review, give us that rating, give us the comment, give us the feedback. If you don't like what you're hearing, hey, let us know. We want to do better. Sherelle, UNC, as you called last week, had some visitors this week. Jalen Washington, signee for the Tar Heels, made his official senior year visit with his folks. I'll let you talk about him. And then if you want to back that with Cam Scott's most recent visit, he's been a multiple time visitor there, and he left with a little bit of a present, didn't he?
He did. So we can start with Cam, actually, since we're right there is a great segue. So this was his second trip in a month. He was at the UNC Georgia Tech game the day before the ice storm hit the triangle. And there's another huge North Carolina win where they kind of shot the lights out. And then he was back on Saturday, a North Carolina win where they shot the lights out. And after the game, he picked up a scholarship offer from UNC. So he's the second player in the class of 2024 to have a UNC scholarship. Again, he is a 6'6" guard / wing from Lexington, South Carolina, just outside of Columbia. So another South Carolina battle on hand for UNC potentially moving forward. The other 2024 offer is Jaron Stevenson, who is a 2024 forward from Pittsburgh. And those two actually are AU teammates for Team United, and they play on Nike's EYBL circuit. So a big time offer for Scott. I think if you are a premium subscriber, you can check out the story that we wrote today with him. It was a big offer for him, and I think they kind of had an idea it might be coming. So Hubert Davis and Jeff Lebo went down to Lexington on January 30th. And you can find it in the story, but they were gonna offer that day. And then Hubert Davis kind of had an inkling. And it turned out it was a good inkling because the reason that he decided to wait, when we asked Cam Scott about it, he was like, I have a lot of respect for that. So I think that won him a few points with the Scott and Cole's family. So yeah, another recruitment that UNC has jumped into, an early offer, I think, from a UNC perspective. They beat a lot of the blue bloods there. Kansas isn't there yet. Kentucky's not there yet. Duke isn't there yet. So they've got a bit of a head start on them, and we'll see what happens as they watch him over the summer with Stevenson.
And again, it's also important for fans who follow this kind of stuff to just pay attention to what kind of style Hubert Davis seems to be showing with regard to how he recruits. I think it's very early to say this is what type of recruiter he is, but it's neat to kind of see what trends he's been able to put out just in this less than a year that we're dealing with. Sean, do you want to kind of give everybody the heads up as to what you might be putting out with regard to Cam Scott's game and your analysis?
Sure. So, with the offer, you can check out on the recruiting board, just kind of a short write-up on him. I think, one of the things that stands out from the highlights is just, how natural he is as a jump shooter, to go with that kind of 6'5", 6'6" height with a good length. And, very, very fluid, good mechanics from the outside, and can, finish with authority and on transition, attacking the basket as well. So I think, he's kind of the type of shooting guard wing that I think UNC fans have wanted over the last, and have been missing the last few years, really since, the 2019 team. I think going forward in terms of just trying to watch a little more full game high school footage, and even on the AAU EYBL circuit, of just kind of seeing how he is, again, in terms of trying to create his own shot, but also, pick and roll with his ball handling. So I think those are two areas, but will hopefully, similar to the Trimble and Nichols breakdowns in Wiltshire as well, we'll hopefully be able to watch Stevenson and Scott a little bit more as they get into their playoff run.
And one last thing on Scott before we move on. I'll give this away from the story because I thought it was pretty interesting. So he's a very mature 16. He's not like a reclass kid who's older, for his age or anything like that. What I thought was interesting is that he brought up a couple of plays. North Carolina's shooting lights out, right? They're 9 threes in the first half. Caleb Love has 5. They've scored 62 points. They're up by 38 at halftime, et cetera, et cetera. The two things he pointed out was Leaky Black forcing 2 shot clock violations in the first half. And I just thought that was interesting, that in spite of the offensive, onslaught that was going on, he was focused on that. And for North Carolina, with the way they've played defense at times this year, people who have an interest in defense on the recruiting trail, I think, will catch their attention. And Scott definitely has his mind on defense as well.
That's a cool nugget, man. And I can go ahead and tell you there are folks listening to this show right now that are immediately hearkening to one former coach that would consider coming out of retirement if he could get, more kids like that, that's what they're analyzing at 16 years old. That will be fun to see if he does matriculate indeed to Chapel Hill. And we mentioned briefly Jalen Washington had his senior year trip. Do you have any nuggets on how that went, or will you have some follow-up for his team? And if you don't have any follow-up from his team, how do you feel like his rehab is going, or do you have any updates on that for us?
Yeah, we hope to talk to him. Actually, we're supposed to talk to him after we record this. So by the time you listen to this, if not Monday, then hopefully Tuesday, we'll have something up. But, he's, from what I understand, the last time I talked to him, the rehab is going well. He is, I'm going to count on live radio, so I apologize. October, November, December, January, February. So he's about 5 months into his recovery now, for a recovery that he said was 6 to 9 months. So I would expect UNC, when he arrives in June, to be super, extremely, amazingly cautious. So I don't expect him to be coming in and playing pickup over the summer or doing any kind of real live work. I think that'll happen as long as everything goes well when practice starts in the fall, just to give him basically a full year to have rehabbed and healed and try to get everything strong and where it needs to be for him to get his conditioning back and all that good stuff.
All right, Sean, last thing, and I'll throw this to you. Assuming that he can be healthy before the season starts, if you could give us a minute breakdown of where you see a player, and you can do percentage. I'm not asking you to name out minutes because we don't know what the roster is going to look like. But if you could break out kind of a percentage of position of where you see a player like Washington slotting in next year, what would that look like?
Well, I mean, this goes back to kind of what we talked about during the summer when he committed. Of, you know, I think a lot of in the articles it was a 5-4, and have been pretty adamant that he's a 5. You know, I think that's being shown more just in terms of UNC defensively at the 4 position this year. I think, you know, I'll go away from percentage, but, you know, minutes basis of if he was able to, you know, even get, you know, 10 to 12 next year, I think that would be considered a win, just given his long layoff. But once again, I think with a big man and knees, that's always kind of a scary, you know, thought. So hopefully he can get healthy, because you know, he really does have, you know, with his length, you know, can protect the rim and is a good shot blocker. And then at the same time, you know, still kind of needs to get stronger to work on that, you know, those post moves and scoring in the post. But he has that kind of stretch 5 ability, which UNC doesn't, you know, for the most part doesn't have, where he's very comfortable from 15 and can even pick and pop a little bit. So, you know, it'd be great if he was healthy, because I think he's exactly the type of player they are looking for. But, you know, hopefully he can come in off the bench next year and just kind of show steady improvement, where, you know, as a sophomore, perhaps it's coming into the starting lineup and kind of following almost that Armando model of maturation and skill development.
Yeah, I'm sure UNC strength coach Jonas Oration is, you know, salivating the opportunity to build Jalen Washington's lower body. All right, guys, anything else before we get out of here? Because I have got to go watch this halftime show and teach my kids how to crip walk. Anything else you want to add in here, Sean? You got anything to add?
Nope, I'm good. Hopefully, I mean, we always talk about the week ahead. So once again, 2 games, and we'll be talking about 1-1 or 2-0 next Sunday. And, you know, I think at Virginia Tech, you know, could be a big win for UNC heading into that final stretch.
All right, Sherelle, anything from you?
Do they understand the concepts of hateration and holleration from Mary J. Blige?
They will. They absolutely will.
They must.
But
so North Carolina 6 games left, right? They have a real shot, I think, to win at least 5 of those. You start to, I'm not taking anything for granted, but, you know, my favorite stat of the season is conference only defensive efficiency, and North Carolina 6 games left. The bottom 5 in that stat in conference only games: Syracuse, who North Carolina plays; Pittsburgh, who North Carolina plays; Louisville, Virginia Tech, NC State. So 5 of North Carolina's 6 games are against the 5 worst conference only defenses in defensive efficiency this season. So if the offense, you know, can be competent and the defense can be competent, you know, I think there's a chance they really could go 5-1 down the stretch. And then who knows what might happen, you know, in Durham in the season finale. But I just thought that was interesting, that's who they have next, those 5 teams at the very bottom.
Well, and they're going to have that opportunity. I think it's like you said, they're going to have the chance against teams that are not performing very well in the conference and defense. But fellas, I appreciate it as always. Thanks for what you bring to the show. Thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks to Johnny T-Shirt for sponsoring and John Siegley for producing. But until next time, let's get ready for the next episode. This has been the Coast to Coast Podcast. I'm Joey Powell for Sean Moran and Sherelle McMillan.